When I do becomes I'm absolutely done, you can't just pack a bag and walk away. The law has some incredibly strict rules about it. Welcome to this explainer on legal separation. We're going to build a mental mind map together today because we absolutely need to lock these rules into your memory.
So let's start with a crucial question. When a marriage hits that absolute breaking point, how exactly does the law categorize the fallout? Now keep in mind, we aren't talking about an absolute dissolution of marriage here. We're looking at legal separation. This is where spouses are legally allowed to live separately, but, and this is a big but, the marriage bonds remain completely intact. Getting that status, though, you're going to have to jump through some very specific legal hoops.
To make this all stick, we're building our mind map of Article 55 of the Family Code using 5 main branches: the breaking point, the grounds for separation, corrupt consent versus agreement, procedural hurdles and terminations, and finally, the financial aftermath.
Branch 1 on our map, the breaking point, mapping the legal boundaries. You can't just file for this because you've grown apart. The law requires some severe, clearly defined triggers. Which brings us to Branch 2, the grounds for separation under Article 55 of the Family Code. Let's look at the specific, acceptable reasons the law outlines. Notice how the law strictly buckets these behaviors. First, there's physical violence, which literally requires the actual infliction of bodily harm. Next up is grossly abusive conduct, and definitely add this detail to your mental map. There are no hard and fast rules for this one. It's determined entirely on a case-to-case basis. And finally, we have sexual perversion.
And honestly, the law doesn't leave sexual perversion up to some vague moral imagination. Legally speaking, it specifically includes acts like adultery, concubinage, and bestiality. The boundaries are drawn very firmly in the legal sand here. Moving to Branch 3, corrupt consent versus agreement, where we examine the nuances. We need to look at a classic point of confusion regarding defenses.
Okay, this is a crucial point to burn into your memory. Look at the stark difference between these two terms. Connivance is simply corrupt consenting. It's passive, It's one spouse turning a blind eye and just allowing the ground for separation to happen. Collusion, on the other hand, is way more active. It implies a corrupt agreement between the parties, like actually sitting down at the kitchen table and conspiring to manufacture a reason for separation just to get the court's approval. Both will absolutely get your case thrown out, but they function in very different ways.
Let's hit Branch 4, procedural hurdles and terminations, or the rules of the court, because even if you have unquestionable grounds, the procedure can kill your case.
First up is a mandatory waiting game. The law literally requires a 6-month cooling-off period before you can even proceed to trial. It acts as a forced pause, a procedural hurdle designed by the state to prevent rash, heat-of-the-moment decisions and give the marriage one last shot at reconciliation. And guys, this isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's an ironclad rule. As the Supreme Court firmly established in the case of Pasit versus Carriega, skipping this cooling-off period is a fatal error. If a judge grants a legal separation without observing this 6-month pause, that failure is a direct ground to have the entire decision completely set aside. Poof, gone. Furthermore, the jurisprudence in Lapuz versus Eufemio reminds us of an absolute, unavoidable termination point. If one spouse happens to die while the proceedings are ongoing, the legal separation case immediately dies right along with them. The court loses jurisdiction, and the case is closed. Period.
Finally, Branch 5, the financial aftermath, specifically the consequences for the guilty spouse. Let's look at what happens to their wallet once the court makes it official.
Consider this your ultimate financial cheat sheet. The penalties for the guilty spouse are massive. First, intestate succession. If the innocent spouse dies without a will, the guilty spouse is completely disqualified from inheriting anything. 0. Second, wills. Any prior provisions favoring the offending spouse are instantly revoked by operation of law. And third, donations and life insurance. These can be actively revoked by the innocent spouse, even if they were originally termed irrevocable. Yeah, you heard that right.
But wait, there is a massive catch regarding those donations and insurance revocations. The innocent spouse doesn't just have forever to make this change. They have exactly 5 years from the finality of the judgment to revoke them. Once that 5-year window closes, that right to revoke disappears entirely.
So, framing this practically, and as a final test of your new mental map, think about it. If you were the innocent spouse, having just gone through the sheer emotional and legal exhaustion of a separation, would you remember to pull the plug on those financial benefits before the law says it's too late? It just goes to show you, knowing the rules of legal separation isn't just about ending a chapter, it's about protecting your entire financial future.